not many people get a chance to work with composer Hans Zimmer and rock star Thom Yorke, supporting the voice of Sir David Attenborough in the process. It almost sounds too good to be true. Indeed, veteran music producer Russell Emanuel admits to feeling a little starstruck when working with Zimmer and the Radiohead frontman on the BBC's upcoming nature documentary Blue Planet 2. It was a career highlight, he tells I defy anyone to work with Hans Zimmer and Radiohead and not get very excited. Hans Zimmer and Thom Yorke worked alongside Russell Emanuel to provide the soundtrack to the Blue Planet 2 prequel photo. BBC Emanuel and Zimmer co-founded Bleeding Fingers, a California-based collective of composers, in 2014 to produce original scores for TV. After successfully scoring the critically acclaimed Planet Earth 2, the BBC and Bleeding Fingers began toying with the idea of bringing in a renowned band or artist for the sequel to Blue Planet. Enter Radiohead. Thom was inspired by the original Blue Planet series, explains Emanuel. They already had a song that was inspired by the original series. The track Emanuel is referring to is Bloom, a frenetic clash of electronic sounds which featured on their 2011 album The King of Limbs. Emanuel, Zimmer and the Bleeding Fingers team quickly got to work performing Surgery on the original song. We stripped it down to the vocals and an ambient piano line in there, and it all of a sudden took on a completely new life. Although it was the same melody, it was now a very different piece of music. Russell Emanuel pictured alongside sound engineer Jeff Foster. Despite the drastic departure from their original track, Radiohead gave them full license to reinterpret the song. At the start of the track they were extremely open. There was no "don't do this, do this." There was no direction. They said be creatively free and do what you think is best. They were nurturing and encouraging, and didn't start by putting a load of shackles on us. Creating a title orchestra with a foundation laid for the track, Emanuel and Zimmer began meshing the sound of Radiohead with the BBC orchestra. Having become well acquainted with the footage for the upcoming season, Emanuel and his team wanted to evoke the feel of the ocean. Hans Zimmer is the biggest punk rocker out there. For this they drew on the work of the Impressionist painters of the 19th century. If you look at Monet's paintings and a lot of the Impressionists, there was for a period this technique called pointillism, the use of tiny brush strokes, almost dots. Step back, you see the whole picture. But if you go up close, all you see are these tiny brush strokes. If you look closely at waves, they're made up of these tiny triangles of water that are moving and evolving. So we thought, how can we translate that into sound? What they come up with was a title orchestra. Instead of having our orchestra play long sustained bows, what we had them do was play in tiny pizzicato plucks, and if the guy next to them was playing, they weren't to play. This had everyone playing at a slightly different time, and it created this very interesting sound that ebbs and flows. Attenborough could read a shopping list and it would sound unbelievable despite impersonating the sounds of the ocean. Emanuel and his team decided against using actual sounds of the ocean. There was talk of using sounds from the ocean, but we just thought that was a little too on the nose, and we wanted to interpret this with instruments. We felt that was our place. There is incredible sound work that has been undergone by the BBC in their production. They've done a spectacular job in that area, and we didn't want to get in the way of that. David Attenborough could read a shopping list and it would sound unbelievable. Photo BBC. As well as the various sounds of the sea, the Bleeding Fingers team were also wary of interfering with the voice of veteran broadcaster Sir David Attenborough. It would be a bold statement to say we could compliment David Attenborough's voice. That guy could read a shopping list and it would sound unbelievable. But certainly when you're scoring something like this, you don't want to get in the way. There are incredible pictures, Sir David's voice, and our goal is to be respectful of these. Injecting punk into Blue Planet 2. It comes as a surprise to learn that Emanuel's musical roots actually lie in punk. He previously worked with Irish band Stiff Little Fingers before moving into TV soundtracks. I definitely think that the attitude helps, he says. I'm not a classically trained musician and producer, so I think sometimes that's helpful. I tend to have a few less rules than people who are. Emanuel claims that he sees this punk attitude in both Zimmer and Radiohead too. They're seen as mainstream artists in their own different arenas, but they both have a very punk aesthetic about the way they approach everything, and that's what made the track so magical. I've never found Hans restrained with anything. He is the biggest punk rocker out there. Blue Planet 2 starts on the 29th of October at 8 p.m. on BBC One. Blue Planet 2 spellbinding new trailer surfaces for David Attenborough sequel. Sir David Attenborough bar Trump. There is a rise in people who care about the environment. David Attenborough's voice was the lead instrument. Jacob Shea on scoring Planet Earth 2.